because he heard his brother was seriously ill. This man in his 70s made a pretty crazy decision. He was going to drive a lawn mower that only goes about 3 miles per hour for 400 miles to see his brother. They hadn't spoken in 10 years. His friends ran after him to talk him out of it, but he's always been stubborn. They just watched him slowly drive away, shaking their heads. Sure enough, it didn't take long for things to go wrong. That old beat-up machine barely made it 3 miles before breaking down on the side of the road, leaving him stranded in the middle of nowhere. He waited there for hours, until evening, when a tour bus finally showed up. The driver was friendly and waved him on. The older ladies on the bus welcomed him too. The driver dropped him off in the next town. He had the mower towed back to where he started. After all that back and forth, his friends thought he should just give up, but he didn't. He got rid of the broken machine and went to a farm equipment market. He spent all his savings, $320, on a used lawn mower. He trusted it, because the seller had a good reputation. His daughter looked at him, totally helpless, but he still hit the road. This time, with a modified mower, he set off again. He slowly headed west, traveling during the day, pulling over at night. He'd gather some firewood, start a fire, eat the meals his daughter packed, and just sit there thinking. He dragged a small wooden trailer behind him to sleep in at night. The next morning, he kept going. On the road, he saw a girl hitchhiking. Car after car passed her by. No one stopped. He waved at her, but she took one look and ignored him. Clearly, she wasn't interested in that junky ride. That night, as he sat by the fire, the same girl showed up, following the glow. He didn't say much, just shared some food, and gave her a blanket. They sat by the fire. He watched her for a bit, and quickly figured out she had run away from home. The girl didn't hide it anymore. She said she got pregnant young, was afraid her family would be mad, so she left. She'd been on the road for 5 months. He listened calmly, and gently told her her family might be angry, but they wouldn't stop loving her. She seemed shaken. The next morning, when he woke up, she was gone. Next to the fire was a neatly stacked pile of firewood. He glanced at it, said nothing, and kept moving. Not long after, he came across a car accident. A woman had hit a deer. He asked if she needed help, but she was clearly overwhelmed. It turned out, this was the 13th deer she'd hit recently. She had tried everything, but nothing worked. It was a road she had to drive every day. After talking, she still had to get back to work. As for him, he handled the deer, cooked himself a rare meat meal, and strapped the antlers to the back of his mower. Then he kept going. But suddenly, something felt off. The mower started speeding up. He slammed the brakes. Nothing happened. He gripped the wheel and sped downhill. Finally, the mower stopped. People gathered around and figured out the trailer was too heavy, and going downhill created too much momentum. The brakes couldn't handle it. Someone checked the machine. There were multiple issues. The transmission was shot. There was no way he could keep going. When people heard he still had 60 miles left, plus a river to cross, and mountains ahead, they thought he was pushing it too far. Some told him to quit, but he said he couldn't. He didn't have a driver's license. His brother couldn't come to him, so he had to go. He said he'd already been on the road for over 30 days, covered more than 300 miles, and slept outside the whole time. He wasn't afraid. He'd been through worse places. People were moved. Some offered him a place to stay, but fixing the mower cost money he didn't have. He borrowed a phone and called his daughter, asking her to send money. Before hanging up, he paused, but didn't say much. Then he left money for the call, as a thank you. Now, all he could do was wait. The next day, 2 twin brothers argued while fixing his mower. Parts and labor came to $247. He bargained it down to $187. Just enough. Watching them, he thought of his own brother. Years ago, they had a huge fight and said terrible things. Since then, they never spoke again. He had regretted it ever since. But time doesn't go backward. The next day, he got ready to leave again. Over the past few days, neighbors had been bringing him food. One older man, about his age, asked him to have a drink. He had been sober for years, but still sat down and talked with him for a long time. They had both been through war. As they talked about the past, the mood grew heavy. Some memories never really go away. Some things stay buried inside. The next day, the mower was fixed. He got back on the road. Now, he was getting closer. He drove slowly, through fields, down quiet roads, fewer people, more silence. After more than 30 days, the journey became just one direction. A small smile finally appeared on his face. He crossed a river and camped at the foot of a mountain. A nearby priest saw the firelight and brought him dinner. As they talked, he realized the priest knew his brother. Not long ago, his brother had been hospitalized, but he never mentioned having a younger brother. He fell silent. They had grown up together, shared a bed, worked side by side every day. But as they got older, alcohol and tempers drove them apart. After that fight, they completely lost contact. Now, he couldn't even remember what they had argued about, and it didn't matter anymore. He just wanted to see him again. The next morning, he hit the road again. He was very close now. He even started to feel excited. At one stop, he bought himself a bottle of alcohol. For the first time in years, he looked relaxed. After getting the address, he kept going, over hill after hill, until finally, he arrived. The house was old, worn down. He slowly walked up, and called out that name. At first, no response. He paused. Then, a voice answered. He let out a breath. They hadn't seen each other in years, but recognized each other instantly. They stood there, looking at each other, saying nothing. Their eyes slowly filled with tears. His brother looked at the mower, and understood everything. How hard the journey had been. All those past things, suddenly didn't matter anymore. They said nothing else. Just stood there, like they were back in the old days. Everything had finally ended, and finally, begun again.